Great, I'm glad you're all here. There's nothing that's more fun than being with a group of women who are on the edge of what's new. And when we do our GUTSY weekends, it's all women. We have a woman chef, and it's at our retreat center about 45 minutes from here. And my husband, we live on the property, but in a slightly different place. He's not allowed in the place. So he does, well, we have really good food. So he calls Teresa, and then he does a McDonald's drive-by at the kitchen. He comes in the car, beeps the horn, she brings his food out, and he leaves. That's the way it is. And I come in the evening, and he said, well, how'd it go? I said, it's great, it's great. What'd you do? I said, you can't translate it. You can't translate it. He said, well, I want to be there. I said, sex change operations the only way you're going to get here, so forget it. But anyway, there is something, and now it is our time. I truly believe it. That's why I wrote the book GUTSY, because I was watching the trends, and I saw how from the first book that came out in the 50s, I think it was, or 60s, The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan, that was the shades of gray in that day. It opened stuff up, to just this week, Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. And we don't have a lot of time. I have 20 minutes, I think, to speak. Whatever. Mary Jane, you'll keep me on point. Okay. We're a really good team. To really look at what does it mean to be gutsy, and what does it mean to lean in? And what if you don't want to lean in? How do you say no to that? So it's very interesting, the times right now. So I want to go back and tell a story from when I was a little girl that has stuck in my mind. I was in second grade, so what, like 8 years old? Around that. And I was a talker. I think I was born coming out saying, so what's going on in this world? And what happened was, we were in a line. Remember, you'd stand in a line, boys and girls, and I wanted to talk to my girlfriend. And there was a guy, his name was Marvin, right in front of me. So I simply scooted in front of Marvin. I didn't ask him, I just scooted in front of Marvin. And I'm talking to my girlfriend, and the teacher comes over, and she said, Marvin, why did you get in back of Sylvia? And I said, no, I got in front of him. And she said, but you're such a good girl. I never forgot that. And he's always in trouble. And the poor kid's standing there with his mouth open, and he's looking at me. And I said to her, but excuse me, I got in front of her. She said, stop trying to protect him. And he got in a lot of trouble. And I was pretty angry. I was, really kind of, this isn't fair. But already you began to see girls are good, boys are annoying. Well, women are good, men are, fill in the blank, however you want. But the fact is, we see these differences. We have to work with them. So one of the things I'd like to look at is how our brains behave differently, and they do. And it's not good and it's not bad, it's just understanding this. And when I was doing research for the book, I was doing research all over the place in terms of what forms us to become who we are. Where do these patterns, which is the buzzword for our organization, we work with behavior patterns, things that tumble through our lives, through our families, through our cultures, that show us we have to be a certain way. What is that about? So one of the things that I think is really key is to understand that we are programmed differently in our brains. Men have more gray matter. It's not about the color, it's just they have it. We have more white matter that goes on both sides of the brain. So you say, okay, so what? So you track down, and since the year 2000, the research in neuroscience is stunning and it's exciting. So you track back and you say, okay, go back to cave people time. Men were the hunters, right? And what does a hunter do? A hunter goes out, keeps his mouth shut and tracks. And so the gray matter developed more and more. Had to be quiet, you had to go for the goal. The goal was get the deer, the buffalo, the whatever, bring it back so the tribe could eat. So men like to go for the goal. Do you know men who do that, who like that? Let me see hands. It should be every hand in the room, okay? Women, on the other hand, we were the gatherers. Now here's what's interesting. So we have this white matter on both sides of our brain. We're good connect the dot people. We see the whole thing, which is what the world needs now, by the way, in case you're wondering. That's why we're here, and that's why all of the buzz right now is about women and women's place. So there we were, and we were the gatherers. There were a gazillion kids around, and we had to gather them and watch them. But we went out to get the herbs and the fruit. So we were picking stuff from the trees and the ground. We went in groups and we talked. So Chatty Cathy had its origin back in survival. And why did we talk? We talked so the little critters, the fox or the smaller animals, would get the heck away from us and let us get what we want and get back. It's still in us now. So when you go to a meeting, you begin to see these differences. We like context, men like solution. So here's the best takeaway I can give you for today. Best one. Mary Jane's shaking her head. Yes, she knows what I'm going to say. When you're talking to a man about a situation, give him the bottom line answer. Don't give him all the details. So to keep this in your mind, what I say is, tell him the baby's name, not about the delivery. Get that? You can go to any other woman and you say, I had a child. Oh, what was the delivery like? And you can go through every breath and unbreath and pain. To a man, they go, what's the baby's name? So that's what we need to do. And when we're in meetings, it's very important to begin to track in the room what's going on and what is needed to be said. So I'm going to talk about some power words, okay? Power words, and these are really important. Power words are words that both sexes will hear. We can hear a certain number of them in one way, but unless we include the men, and we're losing something. I'm really into integration and how can we make it better for all of us to work together. You know, we're done with the bra burning days. Remember, if you weren't around then, some of us were. You read about it? Dolly Parton had a really funny one here. She said, I really wanted to burn my bra, but I was afraid it would take 2 fire departments to put it out. Which I thought was pretty good. So when we're in a meeting, we need to do certain things. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a quick little story about how I got clear on this first one. I was doing an off-site for a scientific group, and it was a 3-day off-site, and on the morning of the second day, the director, who was a male, called me out before we went into the morning thing, and people were having breakfast. And he said, Sylvia, you've got to stop using the F word. And I looked at him, and I mean, I like colorful language, but I know when to use it. And I looked at him and I said, I was totally appropriate. What are you talking about? He said, you keep asking me how I feel. I have no idea how I feel. I only know what I think. This was years ago. This is before all this neuroscience that I'm talking about has come out, but it is so amazing. Because we went back into the meeting, and every time I had to turn something over to this guy, I would say, tell me what you think. And I would ask the same exact question that I had earlier when I'd say, tell me how you feel. And I'd get perfect answers. And we became really good friends. And I learned, this is kind of meet people where they are, not where you want them to be. And if we know this, we have to use this information. So that's one. Turn feel into think. It's really important. The other one is we all have beliefs. Everybody has beliefs. People don't always want to hear your beliefs. It's like, I don't care what you believe, But if you say, I know, instead of I believe, ears, male and female in this one, this is another power word, ears will perk up, but especially men. Women can handle the belief part of it. If you're in a meeting, if you want that place where there's a certain amount of power, and you're thinking, I'm going to say, I believe what we should do is, edit it, erase it, take it out, and say, I know what should be done now. Whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter, but you'll be heard more. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is intention. Intention. Because we as women have often waffled, and we are in the place of really struggling right now. We're struggling with work-life balance, home against work. You know, if you have children growing up, that's still the biggest struggle. At the end of GUTSY, I have a challenge, and the challenge is to start dialogues. And the dialogue is, what is the difference between child care and caring for children? There's a world of difference between those two. We haven't cracked the code yet. We haven't done it. We started doing with flex time, and then, what's her name from Yahoo? What's her name? Marissa Meyer just blew that one out of the water, and you know she's saying either you work here or get out. They say she's doing it possibly because she wants to get attrition, but it just opened up a whole can of worms about working off-site, which just was starting to feel comfortable for people. So where it'll go, I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch. But these are fascinating kinds of things. So let me, intention. I'm going to do this. We have enough time. I need somebody who has a strong arm and is not intimidated. I need a gutsy gal to come up here with me. Let's go, Lori. Hello.
She thinks she needs help too.
Yeah. Okay.
This is painless,
No,
but
I'm
it's
not worried.
fun. Maybe. Okay. Intention drives so much, and when we're clear, we get more of what we want than when we're not. So I'm going to show you this one. So put your arms out like this and resist me. Whoa, strong lady.
I know.
You don't mess with her. Okay.
Spinning. Seriously.
I believe you. All right.
What else now? Do I take it
No,
down?
put your arms back up.
And sometimes I get arrested, so I'm like this too.
Oh, good. So it's a familiar feeling.
Kidding.
Okay, put your arms up.
Okay.
Put them up.
The same way?
Same way. You're not being arrested, and you're going to say out loud, just look in the sky over there, or the ceiling. Say, I will try to resist you with all my might.
I will try to resist you with all my might. Oh, am I supposed to do it?
You're supposed to resist me.
I was trying.
I know you were. You were trying.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
shake
I
your
was.
hands out and put your hands back up. Now, looking back there, say, I will resist you with all my might.
I will resist you with all my might.
I'm hanging on her and she won't move. You see the difference? We did not rehearse this, did we, Laura?
No, honest to God.
So thank you.
Okay.
Give her applause. What was the difference? Come on, you were all listening. But what in the intent? Try. This one is so powerful. It's so simple. But I'm telling you, remember Star Wars, Yoda? There's this place where Luke Skywalker is supposed to raise a ship from the bottom of the ocean, and he says to Yoda, all right, I'll try. And Yoda gives that famous sentence, no, Luke. There is no try. There is do or not do. And you saw that. I mean, Lori, she is strong. You don't mess with her. But when she said, I will try, I had her, And I did not push any harder. In fact, I was pushing harder on the I will resist you. Intention. In. It means it starts in here. So how do you get the intention for whatever it is you want, however you want it to be, okay? That's the key. We need a whole day for that, or a weekend. But what you need to do is find out who you are inside. That's the key. And what we do is we start with when you were born. We're not going to do it now, we don't have the time. But when you were born, there were messages about being a girl, or excitement or disappointment. Sometimes people want a boy, so there's that kind. I'm in correspondence with a woman in India who I met on LinkedIn, who's very, very interesting, and she emailed me and said, Sylvia, I can see from the correspondence we were having where some of my sadness is. She said, I was born in a family and there were 3 other girls. She was the 4th girl. And she said it was a village and they didn't want girls, they wanted boys. And she said, I now sense there was so much disappointment. And my whole life I've been trying to release that disappointment and make my parents proud of me. She's got a PhD, she's going for a law degree, and one of the things we talked about on these emails is, you know, how much education is enough, how much formal, not education, we are always learning, how much formal education is enough, and why are you doing what you're doing? So you begin to look back, and then we take and start to track up to present time. And it's fascinating to look at some of the things, the messages that we got that we didn't know we were getting. And I'm wearing this today for a reason, my bright red, lipstick red jacket. When I did the research, I was doing research about where did this thing about little girls are in pink and little boys are in blue. Does anybody ever figure out where that comes from? Good, because I'm going to tell you. Making it easy, I did the research. It's so interesting. In the 1800s, everybody wore Muslim. They wore shades of the table, the white tablecloth here. It was easy to clean. And then colors became more prevalent in material. And before World War II, it was boys wore pink. And this is interesting. And I thought, pink, why? It is a watered down version of red, which is, red is the color of bravery. It's the color of bravery, and they thought little boys, it was too much for them. So it was toned down into pink, okay? And then color started to change, and somewhere, some dudes on Madison Avenue started to discuss whatever they discussed, and they flipped, oh, and blue was for little girls before this. Now listen, I'm just the reporter. I didn't make it up, I'm just reporting. That was for the Virgin Mary. So there was a message, stay pure, do not mess around, for little girls. And be brave and grow up to be brave and strong for little boys. And then it flipped. The colors flipped. And there's no, I haven't seen any translation on why now blue for boys. The best I could come up with was in some of the research that when we see colors, that females are more prevalent to see the reds and the pinks more prominently, and that may be why Madison Avenue took it. And part of it was when we were out, anybody remember being a gatherer a couple thousand years ago? The berries were red, so we had to be able to see them. The fruit, for the most part, was red. And if a baby had a fever, their face was red. And little boys, when they grew up to be these hunters, you know, they were tracking. They wanted blue skies because they didn't want rain, and they were always, if they got lost, looking for water. In those days, I think it was still blue, not muddy like it is now. So that was the best I could come up with why the change occurred. But it is so interesting to see the prevalence of these subtle things that have formed us. Just like, and I'll go back to being in 2nd grade and being told, well, you're a good girl. He's a bad boy. Yeah, he's a wild one. Boys are uncontrollable, but I wasn't controllable. I just knew how to work the room better. I've always wanted to find Marvin and apologize, because he ended up getting kicked out of school, and he had to go to, not just from that, I mean, if it were only that one thing, but he did, and who knows whatever happened. So, I can't remember his last name. So what's interesting now, ladies, is we need to get our GUTSY going. But knowing that, knowing some of the things I just said to you, and knowing all the things that are, you know, in the book and in the programs we're doing, is critical for you to be able then to go back to what we're talking about with Sheryl Sandberg. You lean in when you want, not when she says you have to lean in because you have to be a big posh executive and make billions of dollars. I mean, if that's your deal, go for it. You know, I'll support you. But you have to know who you are inside, in sight. And that's what we're working on. So that's it. I'm right on time. Mary Jane's proud of me. I'm never right on time. Ladies, thank you. Keep going and keep this organization moving the way it should, because it's an important one.